Welcome back to the First and Goal podcast. Everybody, my name is Sam Levine, joined by Mitch Weinberg, coming to you on a little bit of a weird day for us. We're coming to you on Friday, but we all had some scheduling issues, so we adapt, we adjust, and here we are. We're still bringing you the First and Goal podcast. Honestly, a lot has happened besides the draft since our last podcast last Tuesday, mainly revolving around Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers. Now, we know there have been a lot of issues, not a lot of issues, but definitely some tension between the two sides, the two parties over the last couple of years, and specifically last year since they drafted Jordan Love. But now there were reports that Aaron Rodgers will not and refuses to return to the Green Bay Packers. And if you really want to hear my full breakdown about that situation, go listen to a YouTube video that I posted about 20 minutes long earlier in the week. You can go check that out for a full breakdown on the entire situation. But here today, right now, me and Mitch are going to talk about the most recent news that we got regarding this situation coming from Adam Schefter, kind of him backtracking and saying that this wasn't a breaking report and this was more of an accumulation of information that made him report this. I think that is extremely misleading. And I think it is completely blown out of proportion because of maybe not totally, but definitely some misleading journalism here from Adam Schefter.
I mean, look, I wouldn't say it's misleading. I think this is something that's been rather evident since the draft of last year. I think it was pretty obvious that he didn't want out of Green Bay last year, but it was pretty obvious that he was mad. There's a guy they trade the only time they've drafted an offensive player in the past, I don't know how many drafts. I think since like 2013. Like what? You expect him to be happy, come to work with a smile on your face? How would you feel if someone paid more money to get the guy that's gonna be your replacement, even though you're like doing way better than that guy and you're proven? Like you obviously won't be happy. And I mean, I don't think it's misleading. I think that right now before the draft, I think they placed it perfectly because everything was going smooth right until like the few hours before the draft. There's usually rarely any drama except for like trades, and then boom, this was a bomb. It was big news, but it wasn't surprising in my opinion, and I think you can agree on that. That like this is huge because one of the best players in the history of the Green Bay Packers franchise says no, I want out. So I think it's big news, but not super shocking.
Well, hold on, because you're saying it's big news, but listen, the report said it wasn't news, right? It's not breaking news. This is an accumulation of reports, smaller reports that kind of maybe point in a direction, but this wasn't breaking news, right? Adam Schefter said there was nothing that came in that day that made him want to report this, which again makes me believe that he just dropped it, or it doesn't make me believe it. It's kind of pretty evident that he dropped this on draft day, looking for a big story, looking for a bombshell to, get more views up for draft day, a big draft day story that he decided to drop on that day. And that's how I see it as. And because of that, because Adam Schefter decided to make that report, we're sitting here in a situation that I think we don't really, as a general population, don't really have a good grasp on because of how overblown the response to that report has been. So you look at this, I don't think we can take these reports at face value, right? I don't think we can take it as Aaron Rodgers wants out of the Green Bay Packers. He didn't say that. His camp didn't say that. So we don't really know where it stands, right? We don't know what's going on behind closed doors. We aren't inside the head of Aaron Rodgers. And apparently we can't even trust the reports from Adam Schefter at this point. So I don't really know what way to point and say that's the truth. It's very difficult right now because the most sturdy, apparent, supposedly the most sturdy report that this entire discussion was based off of isn't as reliable as we once thought.
I mean that's fair because this story has a few gaping holes. Basically, there's three parts to the story. Aaron Rodgers is mad. He told a bunch of teammates he's not coming back, and then of course, we could talk about the whole front office not being happy, and then the Packers suspect tampering. Those are like the only three pieces to this story. we haven't heard if there's been trade talks. We've heard teams have like got like for example the Niners. I remember on draft day they were willing to put a whole package deal up for him, but there weren't so I haven't heard so many trade rumors. If we look at Russell Wilson, another very comparable story. I mean, he wasn't happy in Seattle, but I mean it's a little different because he replacement isn't getting drafted. He's not frustrated. Well, he's frustrated with the front office obviously for not protecting him, but he hasn't gone up to players saying I'm not coming back. It's a little interesting because a lot of quarterbacks are now coming out and saying I'm not playing for you unless you do things my way. So what's it going to look like in Green Bay for next year? I don't know. There's no real leading information as to whether or not the Packers will trade him because right now it's like no, we're not trading him. We have to wait because we can't make an assumption off of something that we don't know enough about. We just know that he's not happy and they want him gone. Like he wants to be gone. Told his teammates he's gone, but the front office hasn't said anything. And Schefter doesn't, or no one overall. If we're not even going to say Schefter's so reliable in this case, like we don't know. All we know is the situation is turning sour.
Yeah, not only do we not know, overall have a good view of it, we're getting a lot of conflicting reports. I mean, we're getting reports say that he was calling, Brian Gutekunst's Jerry Krause and mocking him in that sense to teammates, which very well could be true. And, obviously it would make sense in this instance. But then we're seeing situations and other reports that say Aaron Rodgers, does tend to say things like that at times, make overblown statements, and then backtrack. And this isn't anything unusual. So we're getting a lot of conflicting reports that don't necessarily create a linear story. There are multiple stories that you could go with right now that don't line up and that don't add up to one overall point in time. So it's very interesting because again, we keep reiterating, we don't know where this stands. We don't know what Aaron Rodgers is thinking. We don't actually know what Aaron Rodgers is demanding, and we don't know what the Green Bay Packers are offering, right? I mean, we just don't know. It is a possibly a standstill, but we don't know what is going on behind closed doors. We really don't know what is being said. And then you come out with people like Adam Schefter and then these other conflicting reports. It'll be very interesting to look back on this situation and see who is right? Because there are so many things that you look at these reports and be like, okay, those two reports both can't be correct, right? So which one is wrong? Which one is not the truthful one? There are many things that many reports that imply two sides of the same coin, and it can't be both ways.
And see, it's exactly that. Now, if we look at the possible outcomes, because there's three possible outcomes. We could talk to. I ultimately think there's three. He gets traded, he stays, or he Le'Veon Bell's it. Now, look, I think the least likely out of those is that he sits out on his deal. I think that's absurd. Why would he sit out on that much money? I mean, look, if the Packers are going to trade him, there's a huge chance that the Packers can come out with a boatload of picks and like a whole way to revamp their whole entire team for the future. If they want to do all a yard sale, I spoke about that on my podcast. Like you can yard sale this team and get great value. Aaron Rodgers, he's not declining now. He might not decline next year, but by like the time his contract is up, at some point he's going to decline. I don't know when it's going to be, but at some point he will go downhill. And I'm not saying it's going to be next year. Don't quote me on that because I think that Aaron Rodgers still has a fair bit of juice left in the tank. Now, like which teams would be willing to trade for him? As far as I'm concerned, Denver is his favorite landing spot. I don't know how Denver would actually end up trading for him instead of selling off all their picks, which in my opinion would be terrible value for Denver. The core is so young, and I think next year they benefit from drafting a quarterback instead of trading for Aaron Rodgers. We also heard the Raiders. They can probably patch up a deal that's pretty good because the Raiders are inconsistent and Green Bay could probably come out as a win. But beyond those two AFC West teams, I haven't heard too much. Maybe a little bit of San Francisco.
Yeah, it's very spotty at the moment. And also, we really don't know to a realistic extent how much those teams are actually involved in talking to Green Bay, right? We know those We have heard reports that those three teams are Aaron Rodgers' preferred destinations, but we heard the Packers completely shut down the 49ers. Or excuse me, we heard the Packers completely shut down the 49ers. I believe they also completely shut down the Broncos. Has there been any other discussions besides that? I would assume not, because they got completely shut down, but you never know. Now, going on to another thing with this situation is there were reports today that the Green Bay Packers offered Aaron Rodgers a $45 million plus extension, maybe not extension, but at least restructuring his contract to the point where he would earn at least $45 million per year going forward after or 2021 and beyond for the rest of his contract. And he actually, reports say that he declined it, which to me makes a lot of sense and also further reinforces the idea of what I thought this was all about and what I actually think is going on here. It's not about money for Aaron Rodgers, right? He's made a lot of money. He is on a big deal currently, even though he may not be top 3 paid quarterback in the league. I believe he is top 5, if not 6 or 7. He's making a lot of money, and it's not about money for Aaron Rodgers. It's about his voice within the organization. It's about being treated like he is I believe, 9-time Pro Bowler, a 3-time MVP, a 1-time Super Bowl champ, and quite honestly, at this point, the best quarterback in the NFL. It's about being treated like that type of player within the organization. It's not about being paid $45 million. It's about being valued as a person, not as a number, not just as a player, as a person and as a voice within the Packers organization.
One word when it comes to Aaron Rodgers at this point in his career, and it's win. It's not money, it is win. He can get a big contract wherever, okay? Like, it doesn't matter. Similar to Tom Brady, he wants to win now. He's and heading toward, as I just said, heading toward the back end of his career. Can he win with Green Bay? I don't know. I don't know. And I
Whoa,
don't think it's Aaron
whoa,
Rodgers'
whoa,
fault.
whoa, whoa, whoa.
No,
Hold
no,
on.
but I mean, go
If
all
he's
the way. Go
hold
all
on.
the way. Go
If
all
it's
the way.
not going to be Green Bay, who's it going to be?
That's the thing. Who's it going to be? Look, Tampa Bay before Tom Brady got there was, well, not great
Okay,
for the
but
past
if
few
you
years.
but hold on, if you're a
Can
team,
Aaron Rodgers attract the same
but
thing as
hold
Tom
on,
Brady?
just hold.
Maybe.
I think he could, but hold on. For two things, right? If Aaron Rodgers is going to be traded, I do think it will be this offseason. My
It would
opinion,
have to be.
I don't think I agree. I don't think he will be traded.
No.
I think this will to some degree end up being resolved one way or another. But I do not think he will be. I don't think he will be traded, and I don't think he will sit out. I do think he will play for the Packers in 2021. However, Aaron Rodgers' contract is not up for another 3 seasons. Tom Brady signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, okay, allowing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to still have a lot of first round picks or the normal amount and second round picks. And he signed for $30 million per year, which, is a lot of money, but it's a lot less compared to $45 million a year. If you're bringing in Aaron Rodgers, you have a guy who's already being paid $35 million base that Aaron Rodgers might be looking to improve upon that number if he goes to a new team. Also, that team is going to have to give up at least 3 first-round picks and a couple good players to get Aaron Rodgers in the first place. And that is significantly setting that team back. Not to mention, you're looking at a team like the Broncos, the Raiders, who are, looking like they could be playoff teams right now, but not Super Bowl contenders. And the Green Bay Packers look like Super Bowl contenders right now. So you're putting Aaron Rodgers on a significantly worse team with a significantly worse supporting cast and taking away draft picks and taking away a couple good young players. If it's not going to happen in Green Bay, I just don't think it's going to happen anywhere.
I mean, I think Aaron Rodgers can bring over the same facade that, like, as I mentioned earlier, like, could he attract free agent talent? Yes. The Green Bay Packers have done an awful job at attracting free agent talent overall. I don't know if that's the GM. I don't know if that's Wisconsin, but like, I'm not saying it's gonna be any better in Denver because, well, they don't really attract so many great free agents. It's not such a big market team. But you know what? At the end of the day, I think that the offensive supporting cast, like just looking overall at the weapons, you can argue that Denver's better. Not saying that there's no receiver on Denver that compares to Devontae Adams, but if we're going to compare Jerry Jeudy to Van Lis Scantling, or if we're going to compare KJ Hamler to Alan Lazard, if we're
Almost
going to
got yourself
actually,
in a bind there.
yeah, like I can't, there's
Devontae
no
Adams,
comparing anybody to Devontae
Cortland
Adams.
Sutton to
Like,
Devontae
what a
Adams.
great comparative right there. And then Aaron Jones, well, like running backs are replaceable. I like Aaron Jones a lot. But you know what? At the end of the day, if he goes to Denver, oh man, Patrick Mahomes is gonna have a
That defense.
fun time. He's gonna have a fun time because I think Aaron Rodgers can win anywhere. Um, I think he just needs a overall better supporting cast. I think he needs more star players instead of two superstars. You need more star up and coming players. That's what he needs because Denver, like their defense, I like it a lot. Like I don't want to say they're a quarterback away because, well, we say that every year. And then Drew Lock, and then Paxton Lynch, and then now Teddy Bridgewater. So you know what? I don't know. Could Aaron Rodgers be ruined in Denver? I don't put it past yourself
Yeah,
at all.
also Vic Fangio, a defensive minded head coach. Obviously, Matt LaFleur, very smart offensive head coach. So you never know how the difference in coaching will affect Aaron Rodgers if he does go to a different team. Quickly now, before we switch gears and move over to the draft, just quickly, what do you think will happen, and what do you think the timetable will be, and why?
Well, I don't know, to be frank with you. There's so many possible situations. I'd like to see him watch Jeopardy. He'd actually get me to learn something, maybe. So you know what? If Jeopardy comes calling with a good contract for him to like take back Alex Trebek, host him for a season, that's what I want. I want him to host Jeopardy, and then will he Brett Favre it? Probably, maybe. That's not what I want
Probably,
to happen,
maybe.
but I don't want it to happen, but I can definitely see it happening. And if Denver wants to trade him to a bad team, he can pull a Gronk and host Jeopardy. Like, you're trading me there? No, thank you.
That sounded confident. Probably, maybe.
I mean, look, if you got a good job hosting a TV show like that, Aaron Rodgers, when he retires, is going to host Jeopardy. He's going to be happy. I liked Aaron Rodgers on Jeopardy.
He probably got. I mean, he probably. I'm sure the producers are happy with him too. He probably gave them the highest ratings that they've ever had in
Probably,
Jeopardy
yeah.
history. I mean, yeah, I'd like to see those. Probably
All the people in
significantly
Green
more.
Bay, Wisconsin
Oh,
watching.
for
All the
sure.
people.
All are you kidding me? All people over the country to see Aaron Rodgers host Jeopardy. I mean, but honestly, who I think or what I think will happen is I said it a little bit earlier. I think he will stay with the Green Bay Packers. This is a situation where I said it, I kind of hinted at it earlier. I don't think this is all like a smoke screen, so to speak. I definitely think Aaron Rodgers is unhappy. I definitely think there is mending that needs to be done between the relationship of Aaron Rodgers and the front office of the Green Bay Packers. And that isn't going to be easy, but I think it will be salvaged. And I think it is salvageable at this point. Again, the reports that we've seen up to this point, it's not breaking news, right? We need to keep that in mind. Adam Schefter admitted that none of this was breaking, right? None of it was a breaking report. It was all things that came in slowly the over the course of the NFC Championship game up until the draft. And then again, it was just planning by Adam Schefter to get a good draft day story to release it on draft day. So, the timing was fabricated, the story overall was fabricated. So we need to take it with a grain of salt. And again, Aaron Rodgers said that he is disappointed that this rift with the Packers came out. So it's not like he's trying to start a fire. It's not like he's trying to start a wildfire, which is something that I think is very important because Deshaun Watson with Houston was trying to burn it to the ground. Russell Wilson,
Well, that's a little bit of a different situation in Houston, in my opinion. But
well, for sure, but you're
uh,
for absolutely, but that's I think the difference is right. Deshaun Watson is actively trying to really get out. There's nothing salvageable with the situation. Russell Wilson is another guy who didn't. It's not the same situation as Deshaun Watson, right? He's not actively trying to get a trade out, but it looked like for a little bit there that he could very well be trying to force his way out, trying to use the media as a tool. And that is clearly not the situation with Aaron Rodgers. So now let's move it on to the draft talk. Finally, we get to talk some NFL draft. Let's talk winners and losers. Starting it off with some winners. Mitch, who is your number one winner?
Well, in no particular order, obviously. So we're going to start with the guy who's trying to revive his career. Known as a joker, unsuccessful. 28-3. There's two guys on them. If you look at the docs, there's two guys that could be talking about. We're gonna start with a little Matty Ice. Next year is a free agent, and I don't know that Atlanta's so keen on re-signing him. I mean, I've heard nothing. Like, there's no intentions. A lot of skeptical free agent talks heading into next year. There's a lot of really great free agents that'll be in the pool next year. Matt Ryan most certainly being one of them. He got arguably the best receiver in the draft with a already star-studded offense. They mentioned how they want to trade Julio Jones. Sure. Let's say they trade Julio Jones. The package they can get in return, there's so much that they can get from trading Julio Jones. Calvin Ridley's good. I like Russell Gage and whoever else they bring in. I don't really know beyond that part of the depth chart. But just that, like Russell Gage and Calvin Ridley, like Calvin Ridley's a wide receiver one. Hopefully, because you better hope it's not similar to Juju when AB left and then declined. I don't think that's going to happen, but I think Calvin Ridley's fine. I like Russell Gage too. And Kyle Pitts is a monster. Line him up anywhere. And also, not to mention, they added Mike Davis in free agency, very solid running back on a very good deal. So the Atlanta offense is looking really good. I see that as a win for him. Now, why didn't I say Atlanta? Well, their defense is not great. It's really bad. It leaves a sour taste in my mouth. So that's why I think Matt Ryan wins, not just because of the Kyle Pitts, because there were better picks defensively that I like. I would have said Atlanta, but Atlanta did not do enough, especially the new head coach coming in.
For sure. 2 out of their first 3 picks, they went offense. And yes, they did get positions of need. That defense is an issue. They got one of your guys, Richie Grant. I'm sure you like that pick. But Kyle Pitts in the first round can't go wrong. Can't go wrong. Definitely add something to the roster. However, it does leave, what about defense? Like a little bit of an asterisk next to that pick. And then taking Jalen Mayfield in the 3rd round. Good player, can play tackle or guard. But again, think they should have added defensive help. They really needed it. Now, another guy that I wanted to add in here, this is going to be my rival, or not my rival, but the rival of my favorite team, their GM, Ryan Pace, the Chicago Bears GM. I think this draft was a huge win for him because if you remember back a couple months, I believe in February, I talked about in an episode how I think I laid out a plan for the Bears and Ryan Pace for the draft. How can Ryan Pace keep his job? What can he do in this draft to keep his job? And maybe he's listening to the First and Goal podcast because he followed my advice to a T. I said that they should either draft Kellen Mond, Davis Mills, or Kyle Trask on day 2. I said that was the bare minimum. But what they really should do, what they could really do for Ryan Pace to keep his job is trade up for either Trey Lance or Justin Fields. That would blow me away and really put me on his side. And you know what? He went out and did it. I give huge props to him because he did what needed to be done to give his franchise hope, to give his franchise just a little bit extra. Or not even a little bit extra. I mean, this guy, you're talking about a guy who could be your franchise quarterback for the long run in Justin Fields, a guy that is uber talented. I give huge props to him for trading up from 20 to 11, trading a first-round pick to get it done, doing whatever was necessary to get that quarterback because you can bet a lot of money that he was not going to be available at 20. No chance. Trading up 9 picks, very impressive. And then in the 2nd round, I said they needed to get a tackle. Went out and got Tevin Jenkins at pick 39. I believe that was also a trade up to get Tevin Jenkins at number 39, recognizing that he was a first-round talent available in the early 2nd round, trading up to get it done. boom, they just filled their two biggest holes with Tevin Jenkins was a mauler at right tackle, and then Justin Fields, who could be your franchise quarterback for the long run. I absolutely love the moves that he made, especially in the first two rounds.
Look, as much as I hate Justin Fields, everyone knows I don't like him. The Bears they did the right thing. Okay, they did the right thing because like a quarterback big board wise, I like my top three quarterbacks were gone, and I didn't think the Bears were actually gonna pull this off. I never
Neither
thought
did
they were
I.
actually gonna trade up, but also the Giants did a great job with by getting a good offer in for them. But the Bears, like I think it was a good trade up for both sides. Now Allen Robinson is gonna look really good. I don't care if it's Andy Dalton throwing it to him. I don't care if it's Justin Fields. Allen Robinson makes everyone look good. He made Blake Bortles look good. Okay, that's enough. Okay, we don't want to start throwing out Mitch Trubisky here, so that's why we're just going to go with Blake Bortles. So I think that Justin Fields is going to have a better receiver than he ever had at the Ohio State. Like the offense is going to look very good in the defense if it could stay at the same caliber it has over the past 3 years. Keep that pace. They could be gunning for a 7 seed within the next 2 years. Okay, because I don't know that this year, like I want to see how Justin Fields actually pans out when they end up starting him, how everything else goes, and strength of schedule and such. So I see that the Bears are went from a bottom tier team to a mid tier team just from this trade alone. Defense is looking good. Offense could be looking a bit better in my opinion, but also because they drafted Justin Fields, I think that's an incentive for Allen Robinson to stay in Chicago. I don't know if anyone's really thought of that because Andy Dalton's not an incentive to stay anywhere. So now with Justin Fields, there's a future in Chicago. Something that probably hasn't been said since 1985.
1984. I mean, after that 85 season, they kind of fell off a cliff for the next 35 years. I mean, hopefully, hopefully, Bears fans who are
What do you
alive
mean,
for
Jay
eight.
Cutler?
Oh yeah, Jay Cutler. Jay Cutler. Yeah, 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 yeah. You're right. I forgot. My bad. Um, yeah, great. I mean, honestly, probably the greatest Bears quarterback of all time.
He is statistically. I think he is.
Yeah, honestly, it's a
Like
little
who else?
it's really sad. I
Um,
mean, Jim McMahon won with them, but he wasn't that good. I mean,
Come on, that's like saying Nick Foles is the greatest Eagles quarterback of all time. This
exactly.
is
Yeah.
not.
No,
This is
actually
not an accurate statement.
that's a perfect comparison actually. His best season was 17 touchdowns, and I think that was his only year with more than 10 touchdowns.
He had
Granted,
Walter Payton. This man's getting carried.
Walter Payton was a beast. He was great. Yeah, no, can't give the Bears too much props. I gotta cut on them at least a little bit here. So going on to my next winner, that's gonna be the Cleveland Browns. This team absolutely had a monster draft. I mean, you're talking about their first round pick, Greg Newsome, knocked it out of the park with this one. I think they should have gone Jeremiah Wusu-Koramoah, but guess who they got in the second round? I mean, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. So they got two very, very clearly first-round defensive prospects to improve their defense, and they got it at real positions of need. Cornerback 2 was kind of an issue there. Rudy Williams wasn't great his first season, and then he got injured last year. So, we don't really know what he is, but didn't look great from what we saw from the small sample size. And also can never hurt to have more cornerbacks because the amount that they play. Greg Newsome, though, showed true starting cornerback potential in his last season at Northwestern. He saved the best for last. Does have a little bit of injury concerns, but I mean, from what he saw, he is clearly a first round talent and a guy that will have an impact from day one. Wouldn't be surprised if Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome are the long-term starters for the Cleveland Browns at corner. Then you're looking at the second round, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, who I thought was actually a better prospect than Greg Newsome, but I believed he had some heart concerns, heart issues, which dropped him into the second round, made him fall. That is absolutely stunning value. I mean, you're talking about a guy who, if you slap a number 30 on him, you could play him at safety. And if you put a number 50 on him, he's a linebacker. This is a guy that has the best versatility out of anybody in this entire draft class. He can play all over the defense, and he is absolutely insane in pass coverage. This is a guy that is the modern day NFL linebacker, extremely versatile, extremely athletic, can run sideline to sideline, and can play multiple positions. He is going to add so much to the Cleveland Browns defense. And this is a team that improved themselves so greatly that I would go as far to say they elevated their defense to a level where they could be genuine Super Bowl contenders this year. Genuine Super Bowl contenders. I'm not saying they're going to win it, but don't be surprised if going through the year, they look like an upper echelon squad.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I was going to say, like, for the first time since I started liking football, the Browns can win. Like, this is a team that is built to win. This is the rebuild since the before the Super Bowl era for the Browns fans is over. They found their franchise quarterback. Their offense is looking great. Their defense just got two huge upgrades, in my opinion. And like the defensive line's looking great. Linebacking core, like, okay, they got Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I'd like to see them have one more linebacker at least. And their corners are looking pretty good with Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome. So you know what? This is a winning team. This, like, I don't know really what else to say. It's just they had a phenomenal draft, hit every position of need with good value as well. It's not like, oh, like the Giants that just picked a wide receiver randomly. I'm pretty sure they threw a dartboard. No, Kadarius Toney, that guy's out of Florida. Let's take him. Taking mediocre choices. But we're not here talking about the Giants. We're talking about the Super Bowl contending Browns. Like that sounds so
That sounds
weird
weird.
to me. Like, oh, this is a team that, aside from the Baltimore Ravens, will be contending for the AFC North. It will not be the Bengals. I'm sorry, they need an offensive lineman. They'll get one next year for sure. And Ben Roethlisberger,
Hopefully they don't take a wide receiver.
nah, they'll take a defensive tackle.
Yeah,
And
that was
then
a mistake.
we could probably talk about that, like steals.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Quick,
wow, was not even a bad one.
quick side note before we get to your winner. Just wanted to say, since we're on the topic of it, let's not forget you take Penei Sewell at number 5. Terrace Marshall Jr. is available at your second round pick. So you take Sewell at 5, you take Marshall in the second round. Doesn't look too bad to me. You could also take Rondale Moore in the second round, Diami Brown in the second round. I mean, there were a lot of wide receivers available that they could have taken in the second round if they took Penei Sewell. A lot of really good ones. So again, something I think was a big mistake. Anyway, let's get to your winner.
I think that's exactly that. Not to spend too much time, I'm just going to leave you with my signature quote when I talk about this. The Bengals could have went smart or sexy, and they went sexy, but they should have went smart.
Yep.
Now, for my second winner, a guy that is known for choking, a guy that's trying to get his career revived like it did in 2013 in Seattle. We have defensive coordinator for our Dallas Cowboys, Dan Quinn. For the first time in NFL history, an NFL team spent 6 picks on defense. 6 picks on defense and got tremendous value on almost every one of them. On almost every one. I said almost. Don't. I'll get into him in a second because I have something to say. First of all, Micah Parsons, the trade back, like, sure, rare trade back with the Eagles. Good value for Micah Parsons. Like, they could have taken him at 10. They got a third round pick, got Parsons. Good value. Then they took Kelvin Joseph, which is like, I mean, Trayvon Moore just got picked 1 pick in front of you, which I was absurd. When I saw the Raiders traded up, I was not having it. I'm like, oh my God, they just picked the Cowboys guy. But I also would have been more mad if the Cowboys passed on him. So, like, it is what it is. I think Kelvin Joseph shows an immense amount of prowess, and pairing him alongside Trayvon Diggs, trying to rebuild the defensive back, which definitely can use some work. And they got Oza. I'm not even going to try and pronounce his last name.
Odigizua.
Odigizua. I didn't want to mispronounce his name because I feel mean when I do that to any prospect. So, yeah, great value defensive tackle. Hopefully pair beside Neville Gallimore, rookie last year from Canada. Shout out. And then they took a defensive end out of Iowa, Chauncey Golston. Again, Randy Gregory. I don't know what they're going to do with that. They have DeMarcus Lawrence. The defensive scheme for Dallas is looking very scary. And then we get to Deshaun Wright. And look, if you listen, I'm an Oregon State enthusiast. I'm not a fan. I'm a Longhorns guy. But I'm an Oregon State enthusiast. That was brutal. I'm sorry.
Do you see his quote? I sent you his quote, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm like Richard Sherman. Maybe
More
play a
athletic. No, no,
game.
more athletic Richard Sherman.
Just because you're tall does not mean like, oh, I'm 6'6" and a quarterback. I'm Josh Allen. I'm a more fast Josh Allen. No, this is brutal. And then a guy that I'm going to talk about later. We got Jabril Cox at LSU. Going to talk about him. And then they went like an assortment of offense, and then defensively, Israel Makumau out of South Carolina. Good value, sixth round pick. Probably could have went in the fifth, honestly, but you know what? It is what it is. Overall, that's a lot of defense. And unless you were Jerry Jones in the 2020 NFL draft, you saw what the Cowboys looked like. So I'm happy they didn't go with the wide receiver. I'm happy they didn't go offensive line. Like if they went offensive line, it would not have been a good look for me. It would not have been a good look. But the Cowboys defense is looking like it has potential because I want to see these guys on the field. Picks wise, they hammered all of their biggest needs besides maybe tight end if you're not really sold on Dalton Schultz. And oh my God, they didn't draft a safety. That sent me. I was not having it. I was kind of hoping they were going to take Cisco out of Syracuse, but no, they decided not to, which is fine. But I mean, Donovan Wilson's good, and then I don't know. The Cowboys might go after Jeff Heath again. That's the biggest safety rumor I have out of Dallas right now. So yeah, tough luck. But I think Dan Quinn's got to be happy with this, especially seeing potential major improvements to this defense.
They definitely added a lot of youth. And, honestly, I like it. I think sitting there at number 10, you see literally J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain go the 2 picks before you. I mean, that's brutal. You're sitting there at 10. You're happy with either one, but trading back to number 12, getting the best defensive player available, it doesn't bother me that Michael Parsons is a linebacker and they obviously that's going to improve their run defense more than it is their pass game because Michael Parsons is a game changer. He's a defensive game changer. He affects plays. He disrupts plays. And yes, it is going to help the run game more than the pass game, even though the pass game was clearly the bigger issue.
Abysmal.
Yeah, abysmal. That's saying it nicely. Michael Parsons is going to definitely improve their team because he's also improved their defense overall because he's definitely a very good pass rusher as well. You can put him on the edge even, maybe not as a full-time starter there, but definitely adds value on that position. Kelvin Jones. Yeah, go ahead.
And also, like with the 2 linebacker picks, because they also went Jabril Cox, we'll talk about in a moment, the Cowboys declined Leighton Van Rich's fifth-year option, which I'm mad at because I have his jersey, and I'm probably going to have to get a Michael Parsons jersey now. So, yeah, I mean, they just added depth. So you can never be mad at depth unless you're the Packers.
All right, I'm going to go cry now. Thanks, Mitch.
All
right, thanks, everyone. That's the end of the first. No, I'm kidding. Oh, that was tough, dude. That was tough.
That was me. I'm sorry.
All right, let's talk about my third winner before we get to losers, big losers. All right, my third winner. I have 2 teams written down here. I have Jets, Chargers, both written down. I mean, I could put them both in this category, but I'm probably going to go with Jets a little bit more because Zach Wilson, the right pick, smart pick. We're both super high on him. We both really like him. I think he could potentially break the curse of Jets quarterbacks. But then also, they nailed the rest of the draft. I mean, they nailed it. Joe Douglas trading up 9 spots to get the best guard in this draft class was genius. Doesn't matter what you give up. He gave up, I believe, 2/3, which isn't terrible. 2/3 for trading up 9 picks to get your young quarterback some protection. It is genius. It is perfect and makes absolute sense because Sam Darnold had no offensive line. He had no help. Now Sam Darnold has Zach Wilson has a very good left tackle in Mekhi Becton. He has a very promising, I believe, left guard in Elijah Vera Tucker. He's very versatile. So primarily played left guard, I believe, but very versatile. Could be moved around. That left side is pretty much secured, right? That is 2/5 of your offensive line. That is pretty much set. You have some other solid players on that line. No one that really stands out, but Zach Wilson already in a much better situation than Sam Darnold was, than Elijah Moore. Getting yourself a very explosive guy, very good route runner. Again, another weapon for Zach Wilson to get the ball to, something Sam Darnold really did not have. Fourth round running back, Michael Carter. Again, same thing. Explosive player, very, very athletic, makes big plays, giving Zach Wilson all the weapons he needs to succeed. And then there on out, they went defense to add some really good depth. Guys that I really like Jamie and Sherwood, safety linebacker hybrid, very physical guy that I think has a lot of upside. Same thing with Hamza Nasruddin, safety linebacker hybrid, I think has a lot of upside. I really think Joe Douglas nailed this draft. And by the way, I am Joe Douglas's biggest fan. I mean, I live in New York. I'm a Packers fan. My parents and brother are Giants fans, yet Joe Douglas is my favorite GM in the entire NFL because he is so good. He is so good. He makes all the right picks, and he made every single pick in this entire draft class. It was perfect.
I mean, I like Joe, like as a GM, I think Joe Douglas is great. I don't know if we can say the same for defensive coordinator. I mean, head coach. I don't know if he knows Robert Saleh. If you saw the quote, you know what I'm talking about. I'm sure he's doing a fine job at Jets practice, but get in front of the huddle, man. Come on. Waiting for the head coach. I can only imagine them just waiting there for like 5 seconds, like, what is he doing behind me? Oh, wait, I'm supposed to be saying words. Yes. But no, I think the Jets nailed this draft, and I hope that this curse ends because, well, I think that Zach Wilson has an immensely high ceiling and be very disappointing to see him end up like every other Jets quarterback in the history of that franchise. Besides, like, I don't know, not even Joe Namath. Joe Namath is incredibly overrated. He won a Super Bowl and he won a Super Bowl. That's all there is.
That's it.
That's the Jets haven't had any success in the playoffs. They haven't been to the playoffs since it's been at least 10 years. And like this is their chance. They have a legitimate shot. The AFC is looking competitive, but within the next few years, I think the Jets could crack it. They can finally. It's finally looking like a team over there in East Rutherford, New Jersey, not New York, New Jersey.
Yeah. All right, so let's get to our biggest loser of the draft. One loser that we think lost out the biggest in this entire draft. Mitch, let's kick it off with you.
Let's get off with the guy that we both dislike. Daniel Jones took a huge L this draft. I kind of went over one of the reasons. Kadarius Toney, great receiver. Is he a first round receiver? No. So therefore, that's L number one. And then they proceed to not go offense for the rest of the draft. They proceed to go all defense, which is understandable. But Daniel Jones is all like that. Giants offense is looking bad. I'm sorry. I like Kenny Golladay. Evan Ingram has to learn to catch the ball. And then you know what? Like, Tony's a fine receiver, probably not a day one receiver. Sterling Shepard's bad. And then who do they have? Like, you can't be serious. Leaving Daniel Jones, whose career is basically, in my opinion, in the balance this year, along with Saquon Barkley. You don't even go offensive line to help them. Like, the Giants refuse to help the offense. And the defense is looking great. The defense is looking great. Okay, I don't want to just make it seem like the Giants are looking bad. Their defense is looking great. But their offense, they are not helping them. They screwed up last year, big time offense, and they did it again this year. They had a shot at Bateman. They could have taken Terrence Marshall. I think Terrence Marshall could have been better than Kadarius Toney in this situation. Like, come on. If they went Elijah Moore, that wouldn't have made any sense. I feel like this is the same thing. Good player. They're fast, quality. But they have picked 20. I think next year it's going to be a big issue when they have to pick a quarterback. I'm scared. I'm genuinely scared.
When they have to. 100% right. When they have to. That keyword have to.
Because no way. Unless Daniel Jones is a Pro Bowler, you trade him. No. You cut him. You cut him. Dare I say they trade for Gardner Minshew? I think that's an upgrade.
Pull the trigger. Let's do it, Dave.
Yeah,
Let's do
1 for 1. What a great deal. And then the Jaguars just end up cutting him and keep the third round pick. But anyways, I think that like the Giants have to go out there and get another quarterback. This is a talented defense that cannot be wasted by an offense. We've seen that happen in Chicago. Chicago made a big move this draft, as we just talked about. The Giants have to do the same next year for the sake of Kenny Galladay, for the sake of not wasting all that big money into a big name receiver that's going to put in little results.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Daniel Jones and what he gained and potentially lost, what was left out on the table this year. I don't think Kadarius Toney was such a bad pick because he does add value to the team. He's going to be their slot wide receiver, maybe not from day one, but that's where he projects. Definitely adds speed to the team, definitely adds explosiveness. But Rashad Bateman was right there, who played 60% of his snaps from the slot in 2019, I want to say. Regardless, he played the majority of the snaps from the slot, so he could have been your slot guy. Vastly better receiver than Kadarius Toney. Elijah Moore, again, another better slot wide receiver than Kadarius Toney. It's another example of right position, wrong player for the
That's
Giants.
the Giants' signature
That's the
thing.
Giants' thing. That's their thing. Last year they took Andrew Thomas when all three of the other guys at tackle would have been a better pick, but again, tackle was the right position. This year, wide receiver looked like the right position, wrong player. This one is more for the type of player, I think, and that has to be more of a wait and see grade because Kadarius Toney, how good he's going to be, I feel like is very up in the air right now. So really, how he's used, how it pans out for this team, I think is very much dependent on how much Daniel Jones can be considered, or not Daniel Jones can be considered a loser, but of how harshly we can grade that pick. But I agree with you. No offensive line was a sore mistake this year. They needed interior offensive linemen.
With regard to with regards, this is a wait and see grade, okay? But there's no wait and see with Daniel Jones.
Agreed.
This is it. As we just said, this is it. Like I don't think as a overall as a Giants fan and as a football fan, I want to see some good offensive football sometimes. But you know what? The Giants right now, their offense is starting to crumble. Daniel Jones, as we mentioned, probably gone. Saquon Barkley, if he gets injured one more time, he's gone. If the Giants go running back ahead of quarterback in the next draft, that is bad. And I wouldn't put it past them. I really wouldn't. Like
Yeah.
they have 2 first-round picks. Could they trade up and get Sam Howell in North Carolina if that's who they want? Yes. Would they trade up and take someone else? Yes. But you know what? We'll see because I think that Joe Judge, great job. Joe Judge, a good coach. I don't know that I can say the same for the GM.
Dave Gettleman, I think he did a solid job this class. Definitely like the Azeez Ojulari picks. Azeez Ojulari pick and Aaron Robinson. I think he did a really good job on day 2, but day 1 I think that was a reach. Now, one of my biggest losers is going to be the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, this is a team that they're laughable at this point. They every year in the first round since John Gruden and Mike Mayock became, leaders within that organization,
Dictators.
dictators. We're waiting for them to make a stupid pick in the first round. We're waiting to see who they reach on in the first round. And this year, surprise, surprise, it was an Alabama player, but it was Alex
Shocker.
Leatherwood, the tackle / guard from Alabama. Big reach. I had a mid-second round grade on him, and he got taken number 16 overall with Christian Darrisaw right there, who I thought should have gone within the 12 to 15 range. And Christian Darrisaw staring you right in the face. No, let's go Alex Leatherwood. So you take him, is what it is. You have to deal with that. Probably not going to be the greatest, like all of the other Raiders reaches within the first round. So I think that was a big mistake. I also think taking 3 safeties was a big mistake. You take Jonathan. Oh, sorry, you have Jonathan Abram on the roster already, who's a young safety. Has been okay. Has been solid throughout his career to this point. You take Trevon Merrick, who I think is a pretty good pick, right? I think that's solid. I had a second round grade on him just because of the tackling issue, which I think is a bigger issue than some. Pretty good pick. I can justify it. I think that's solid. But then you go on to take Divine Diablo, who's a enforcer type of player, linebacker slash safety type of strong safety. Divine Diablo from Virginia Tech. Pretty much the same player as Jonathan Abram. I mean, honestly, pretty much the same player. Then you go on to take Tyree Gillespie. I think that's how you say his name. Another safety from Missouri. So you have three safeties and you only had like 6 picks in the entire draft. I think 6, 7. They didn't have a lot of picks in this draft and you wasted 3 of them on safeties. That's a crowded safety room, and safety is one of the more expendable positions in the entire NFL. You couldn't use some of that more on offensive line. You couldn't use some of that more to actually improve and spread the wealth around to your team. So I think that was a big mistake by the Raiders, and I really don't like this draft class at all.
Well, what do you mean they need to spend more time on the offensive line? They drafted Alex Leatherwood in the first round. What do you mean? It's one of those rare cases, similar to the Giants, that their second round selection was
Yeah.
way better than the first round selection. Like 3 safeties, only in rare case scenarios would I ever justify taking 3 players at the same position in a draft class. Safety's not one of them. And you know what? The Raiders, I can't keep picking them as my dark horse every year if this is how they continue to draft. Like I'm Derek Carr. I'm sorry, you're a decent quarterback. You're like 16, but they're not helping you. You lost basically you lost your best receiver last year when they lost Nelson Aguilar to the Patriots. So at this point, like what? The Raiders are just in a state of mediocrity where they're not going to get a top 10 pick and they're not going to be a playoff team. So I think that the Raiders have to choose next year's draft or offseason or whatever. Are we going to contend finally, or is this going to be a yard sale where we trade everyone? Because again, the Raiders have done a number of questionable things this offseason, in my opinion. For example, they went out and brought in Kenyon Drake. Why would you bring in like a mid-tier running back when you have a top-tier running back? Like, I get it. Kenyon Drake, fine player, but like, it's not, unless you're running 2 back sets, it's not really a good look.
Yeah, also spending, I believe, $4 million per year on him, which, isn't crazy, but could definitely be allocated in a different way to actually improve the Raiders roster. So now moving it on to biggest steals of the NFL draft. Let's go 1 steal per day. So 1 steal for day 1, 1 steal for day 2, and then another finally for day 3. So let's kick it off. We actually have the same guy written down for day 1. That is going to be Christian Darrisaw. Like I said earlier, I thought Christian Darrisaw could have gone or should have gone in the 12 to 15 range. Yet he fell to pick 23. And I think that's in large part due to the fact that the Raiders took Alex Leatherwood at pick 17, causing Christian Darrisaw to fall much farther than he should have. Regardless, Darrisaw was definitely, in my book, a mid to early graded left tackle. But I mean, falling to pick 23 is an absolute blessing for Minnesota.
Minnesota could have taken him at their initial pick, but they traded back and got great value again. So Minnesota looking very good. I mean, unless you're Kirk Cousins, you're looking very good. I mean, we can get to a bunch of losers because obviously we're running out a little bit of time here. But yeah, Kirk Cousins, I think I think Kirk Cousins is going to be the starting quarterback for the Vikings for however long. I'd say the Mon pick was a reach for the sake of positional, not value. And yeah, Christian Darrisaw, again, I'm trying to play Madden with this guy on Yoke, and you know what? This guy's not answering me, and I'm very disappointed. I wanted to play with him like a million times before the draft, but he's a busy guy. And he's going to be busy blocking a lot of defensive players in the NFC North and around the league. This is a guy that is ready to dominate, and so are the Vikings. Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, maybe Kirk Cousins if he feels like it, and Dalvin Cook if he could stay on the field. Now, on to day 2. This is where we differ as per usual because Sam and I don't like to agree very much. I went with the Raiders pick, Trayvon Moehrig, safety at TCU. As I mentioned, he probably could have won in the first round. Maybe that might have been a little bit of a shock, but like it would have been big, but not, no, it would have been big, but not a surprise. And ultimately, they traded up to get a guy that they knew was going to have a big impact on their defense. And Trayvon Morig had a day one grade for me, late day one, early day two. And they got good value at a good pick, trading barely anything, moving up like around 7-ish spots. I don't know. I was having dinner at that time and I saw they traded and I was having a fit. But absolutely, Trayvon Morig safety going to help out that whatever the Raiders defense is going to look like next year.
Merrick, I mean, definitely a very good pick. Tackling was an issue for me. I'm a big
Every
tackling.
safety in this draft couldn't tackle.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, besides the guys like Damar Hamlin, but he was not going here. But yeah, no, the safeties. Yeah, when I was doing my scouting, my research on those guys, tackling was definitely an issue for them. But he's definitely going to improve the coverage aspect of the Raiders. And then if his tackling technique can be coached up a little bit, I think this guy is going to be a star in the NFL. My day two sleeper, though, or not sleeper, steal, had to be Azeez Ojulari. I mean, you look at this guy, he has the best hands out of any pass rusher in this entire draft class. He's one of the more flexible, if not the most flexible edge rushers in this entire draft class. The speed off the edge, the get off the edge is otherworldly. I am a huge fan of this player. He was my second best edge rusher taken, or he was my second best graded edge rusher in this draft class. And I think he was the fifth or sixth edge rusher taken. I mean, this guy is a star. He was a star at Georgia. I expect him to be a star with the Giants. This was ridiculous value, and they got a true day one talent here in Ojulari. I think he is an incredible player.
Absolutely. Like the defensive lineman in this draft, you probably could have put, there was like 5 different combinations you could have put, and I would have been like justified. And Azeez Ojulari falling to day two to the Giants. Great pick. Again, first round talent in day two. Now heading on to the day three steals. We got, for me, Jabril Cox at LSU. We talked about this guy coming into the Senior Bowl, talking about how this was really important that he had a good Senior Bowl. He had an okay Senior Bowl. But the potential that is there, his pass coverage, his athleticism, it's all there. I don't know that he'll be an immediate impact player, seeing how Dallas's linebacking core there's 5 guys right now: Van Der Esch, Jalen Smith, Micah Parsons, and Keanu Neal, who refuses to play safety. Now they have Jabril Cox. How will Dan Quinn handle this? I don't know. Maybe they'll run like a 1-5 defense. They'll have just DeMarcus Lawrence in the middle and then 5 linebackers. I don't know if there's defensive illegal formation, but that sounds like it. And, great value for a guy that probably could have won in mid-day 2, falls to early day 3. So he could have won in the second or third and falls to day 3. This is arguably, I'm not saying he is, arguably a steal of the draft. You could put Jeremiah Wusu-Koramoah ahead of him, or realistically any of the guys we're putting on this list.
You talk about Jabril Cox. You talk about his athleticism, and you talk about his pass coverage ability. This is a guy that was probably the best linebacker in coverage throughout his entire 4-year career in college football. I mean, the athleticism is off the charts. The coverage ability is, again, off the charts. So he's bringing a lot to this team that they didn't previously have. He's more of a raw prospect, though. He isn't great at run defending. He is a little bit slow to read and react, but the natural sideline to sideline speed is there, will definitely help him become a better run defender as time progresses. My day 3 steal, though, is Quincy Roche, because I had a 3rd round grade on this guy, a solid 3rd round grade. I thought he should have gone in there. I thought he was a very talented player. However, he went in round 6, right? Doubling the rounds that he was taken, that I think he should have been taken. And the Steelers got a really good player here in Quincy Roche, who played opposite Jalen Phillips in Miami. They both transferred to Miami. And Quincy Roche is honestly, he's not the most athletic player, and he's not the most powerful player, which is probably why he fell this far, but he's technically sound. He has good technique coming off the edge. He's a very solid player who I think has good upside, who, if he can improve his power, can get a little bit more athletic. I know athleticism isn't something that really grows with time, but if he can improve some of his foot quickness, I think he has the opportunity to become a really good player.
Absolutely that. Quincy Roche, a great quality prospect in day three, and I don't know, as you mentioned, like I don't know who'll be the immediate impact, but that's what happens in day three. Day three, you look for guys to develop, and this guy, if he was in 2K, he'd have A plus development. If he was in Madden, actually, I don't know that he'd have hidden development because Madden's very stingy with who they give hidden developments to, and it's very annoying. Hear that, man? Your game's annoying. Fix it, please.
Annoying is the
Buy it
least
next
you
year,
could
but
say.
fix it. Please fix it a lot.
Mitch's
Revamp the
cry.
game.
Mitch's
This is
cry.
my cry for help, Madden.
Mitch's
EA developers, do something, man.
the cry for help to finish off this episode. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in to episode 48. I believe 48 of the First and Goal podcast.
There's 48 on the dock. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's correct though. I feel like I'm missing something, but
Or 49, or maybe 50.
I feel like I skipped ahead a bunch of episodes, but it is what it is. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in to the First and Goal podcast. Whatever, we're coming up on 50. It's coming close. But listen, thank you guys for listening. Please subscribe to the podcast, leave a rating, share it with a friend. Helps us out a lot, means a lot to us over here at First and Goal. Also, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. That is First and Goal on YouTube. Once again, First and Goal on YouTube. Subscribe to that where we post shorter, quicker analysis and opinion videos. Also, go check out the website, firstandgoalfootballtalk.com, where I post articles on the NCAA, NFL football, everything you need to know. It's all covered there in article form. Follow the Instagram. Hey, follow the Instagram. Follow the new Instagram, First and Goal FB, where we post daily graphics on everything you need to know on the NFL and NCAA. And also, don't forget, me and Mitch do go live sometimes. So if you don't want to miss out on that, the Instagram is definitely the place to be. So anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. And until next time, Sam and Mitch signing off.